Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with raregem-productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to activate your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy-Maxfield.
I'm Dr. Cheryl-Watkins-Moore with BioSTL and our Inclusion Initiative. Hello there.
How are you?
I am doing fabulous.
Fantastic. Well, we're doing fabulous, and we're doing fabulous thanks to our founding sponsors, BioSTL and CET, whose support is allowing us to continue to bring you great new interviews, fabulous guests, and frankly, to grow our listenership. So we want to thank everybody who's been subscribing to and downloading our shows, and we encourage you to continue to spread the good word.
And thank you.
And, if there are some potential sponsors out there, we're always glad to have their support as well. So reach out.
Yes,
reach out and say hello and become part of the family. So what are we doing today? Who's visiting the family?
It's a guessing game. I'm going to throw out a couple things for you to think about. Well, this organization was established in honor of the legacy of those successful merchants who've invested in the central part of St. Louis and made it their home. You know who that is?
Give me a little bit more.
Well, it also was designed to thrive while building a solid economic foundation that will serve this community well into the 21st century and beyond. So if you don't know who this organization or what this organization is, it is the Kingsway Merchants Association, which has been working since 1983 to support and improve the business vitality in one of our largest districts.
Well, we're going to get to know even more about that.
Yeah.
In this conversation.
This district is comprised of member businesses and other concerned residents who are all working together for the continued support and sustainability, which I think is key.
Absolutely.
Of the business community. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Kevin-Bryant and Mr. James-Buchanan. They're going to share with us about some exciting developments that are underway with the Kingsway Business District. Can't wait to hear from them.
Awesome.
So stay listening.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast, and we want you to know all about the great things they are up to. BioSTL Fundamentals is an entrepreneur development program targeted to founders wishing to start a company in the bioscience space, including therapeutic products, diagnostic products, medical devices, animal and crop agriculture products, and research tools. Participants earn resources by achieving specific coaching goals. You can learn more about BioSTL Fundamentals by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin-Bryant with Convergence Global Marketing and Kingsway Development. And entrepreneurially thinking, to me, means the opportunity to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs.
As Cheryl said, we're joined today by Kevin-Bryant. Kevin, you are the chair of the Kingsway Merchant Association, but you're also founder and CEO of Convergence Global Marketing, and we visited each other a while ago. And you're right at the corner of Euclid and Delmar, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And if you're from St. Louis or you visit St. Louis often, you know Delmar is a really important landmark in our community. Unfortunately, it's an important landmark because it means that a lot of things happen south of Delmar that don't happen north of Delmar, and
called the Delmar Divide.
And so that's an auspicious corner you're on.
Absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about Convergence Global Marketing, you being on that corner, and then we'll ask Mr. Buchanan to share with us how you guys have been working together.
Absolutely. Well, I originally just moved into that corner because the rent was cheap.
And that was like 12 years ago, right?
Absolutely, 15 years ago.
Is
okay.
that building, that's the building that's kind of kitty corner from Launch Code?
Yes, right directly across the street.
You're not going to believe this. My father-in-law was responsible for that building.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Nesby Moore.
Get out of here. He's the man.
That's
who we're trying to fill his shoes.
That's St. Louis.
Yes, I'm picking up his work.
Absolutely. He did a lot of the development work
Very
here
important.
in St. Louis.
Very important. In fact, I'm in the middle of purchasing the old development corporation building that they operated out of.
Yeah.
Gail from Brown Core Camp is the proprietor of it, and we're buying it from him.
Wow.
So there you go. I got to tell him to listen to this podcast.
Please,
He does.
absolutely. I had to shake your hand twice.
So you've been there 15 years.
15 years.
You put a stake in the ground early on.
We did. We thought, my marketing company was growing. We were just a boutique agency, so it's just 4 of us. And we thought, hey, that's kind of like the Central West End.
It is.
But the rent, it is. Well, on one side of the street.
The rents are different. Exactly. That's what we said. That divides a real thing.
Exactly. But, as we sat there over a period of years, we were growing, but the community behind us north was declining.
Right.
We were watching a beautiful community. I think Fountain Park has enormous potential.
Yes.
Was just declining for the past not only 15 years, maybe twice that. So it just compelled us to say, we got to get involved. We're doing good. We're successful, but good for us. But it was an opportunity to do well while doing some good.
That's awesome.
So how did you get into you had and still have this creative marketing firm? Was that your first entrepreneurial venture?
My first successful one.
That's an important thing to remind our listeners.
I've owned a couple bookstores, screen printing companies, but what I found was my core passion was what I majored in college, which was graphic design.
Wow.
So it just grew into marketing, and I was able to find a niche because we started targeting not-for-profit businesses.
So did you work in a corporation first before you went out on your own?
My last major job was with Great Communications and Marketing, which was an offshoot of Bush Creative. All we did was Anheuser-Busch work. So any work from Anheuser-Busch that was black marketing, 15 years ago, I probably did it or had a hand in it.
Wow.
So we left, as the buyout eventually came, we knew it was coming. Everyone started scrambling for jobs. So a couple of us landed on our feet. We started making more money freelancing than we did when we were working.
I was going to say, and you had a great connection with Anheuser-Busch, so being able to leverage that name.
Absolutely.
Great.
And Monsanto, because our portfolio listed clients everyone from Monsanto to Anheuser-Busch, Pepsi, Coke. We had those products in our portfolio, so it wasn't hard to find work. And most not-for-profits really don't care about creative, so when we came and we were giving them the Anheuser-Busch look for peanuts, we didn't have any problem finding work.
They loved you. That I was going to say, absolutely.
We grew fast.
Wow. So that was 15 years in this and the creative agency that you've developed?
Yes, and it's still doing fine. We're still doing well. The only thing that has competed with it as an entrepreneur is this new love of development that I've walked into.
So how do you balance that? And I imagine working with folks like Mr. Buchanan gives you a different team to work with when you're building out your passion around
you got to learn to delegate.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
and delegate.
That's right.
At the end of the day, I got rid of the pressure of thinking I had to do everything. I had to design everything. I had to know everything. But once I started, hiring people that were smarter than me or more proficient at things, it just became a matter of planning and guidance.
Smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Mr. Buchanan, you're the commercial district manager with the St. Louis-Development-Corporation, SLDC, because we always have acronyms, right? What does that mean?
You mean SLDC or Commercial District Manager?
All of it.
Well, the St. Louis Development Corporation is a quasi-governmental agency that's responsible essentially for the entire economic development initiative of the city of St. Louis. And the area that I work in is the Neighborhood Commercial Development Department, and we're primarily concerned with neighborhood economic development. However, the St. Louis Development Corporation is in charge of the LRA, which is all of the abandoned properties in the city of St. Louis, the Port Authority, the industrial expansion, everything from the NGA project down to the mom and pop grocery store is controlled by the St. Louis Development Corporation.
That's a lot.
I know them from just being here at CET. tremendously involved in the cortex development and all the things ancillary to that. We often get the question of, so how do we take some of what's going on here and move it north, right?
Right.
And it sounds like that you all are working on just what do we need to be doing north, right? Not necessarily does it have to be Cortex or does it need to be Cortex-like, but more importantly, what are we doing north? Because north needs as much attention as anywhere else in the city.
Well, one of the things that I think that I've been fortunate to have been experienced was that I worked as the former Mayor Freeman Bosley's Economic Development Administrative Advisor. And I was, after leaving there, I went to the St. Louis Development Corporation, and I had the distinct, I guess it was really a blessing to meet Kevin-Bryant, who I saw immediately as one of the geniuses, that emerging geniuses in this movement that we've started. And I grew up in the area that I'm working in. How exciting is that?
That is exciting.
Full circle.
Full circle. And so one of the things that I think that's so exciting about this initiative that's different is that we are looking at economic development from a different perspective. One of the things that governments have decided to do, particularly for inner city neighborhoods, is that they have poured social service support with the expectation of economic development. And that goes counter to anything that happens in the country. So what's happening with Kingsway, and the thing that makes Kevin's ideas and dreams so different, is that he's saying that everything that we're doing has to be on an economic base. We have to be able to have people to be able to purchase homes that support businesses, that supports infrastructure, and want people to come into our neighborhood as opposed to moving out of. And that's what's happening with this new development, and it's so exciting because there is a entirely different paradigm that we're promoting with this initiative. And we're talking about the divide. It's going to melt because when people see what's happening on the north side of Del Mar, they're going to want to come over and participate in what this new development is taking place.
So talk to us, Kevin, about what's going on there. What are you guys doing? That's so exciting.
We're blending, attracting commercial development to Del Mar and our perimeter, which is Del Mar, Kings Highway, Page to Taylor.
Okay.
With reinvigorating and rehabbing the residential components. We have close to 302 abandoned or derelict properties in Fountain Park. So we know that in order to get the streetscape, the lighting, the security cameras, all of that in place, you need a tax to pull from. So the first challenge began attracting the commercial businesses that would even be interested in operating Del Mar and north of Del Mar. So we kind of, we have close to 8 active projects right now. All
huge.
are applying. Oh, absolutely. Applying for tax abatement and all the incentives that we were able to offer these developers after we blighted the area.
So what type of businesses are you looking to attract into those communities? Because I agree with you. You know, if you're trying to get people to move in the communities, they need to be able to have businesses that they support that go into these communities that help to support their tax base.
Well, absolutely. Well, we want, not to oversimplify it, but businesses that care about the community that they operate in. We're not really interested in outside corporations that come in and just kind of siphon the money out of the community. We're looking at the small to mid-sized businesses that can come in, set up shop, and care about the community that they're drawing customers to. Businesses like we've been talking to Sugar Fire and businesses on that level because they have an engagement in the people that they're serving.
Right.
On a residential perspective, we've organized 9 different banks to participate in a loan fund, which will offset the appraisal gap of the homes, because when you start rehabbing the homes, there's an appraisal gap because you're north of Del Mar. So we use Detroit as our model. There was a Detroit mortgage fund that was put together, and they did the same thing to invigorate housing in Detroit. And we're far from Detroit. So when we put the offer on the table to the banks, they jumped at it. So it's just that layer after layer after layer until you look up and you have a reinvigorated community.
So did you always look at the community and see potential? Was it always through the lens of opportunity, entrepreneurial potential, things like that?
Kind of, sort of. I've always looked at the community as, is this where I want to be?
Right.
You know, so people like me usually move out.
Right.
And, you know, my computer works the same in Clayton as it does on the corner.
Exactly.
You know.
As long as the internet is up.
100%. You know, so what kind of community do I want to live, work, and play in? So all I did was said, you know, I have some skills that I can lend to this process, and that's what I did. Most people look at the community north of Delmar and say, how can I exploit it? You know, or there's no people that, you know, I was dealing with one consultant that said we were targeting a grocery store, and it was like, well, they won't support a grocery store. And I was like, black people don't eat groceries.
Right. Who is that?
You know, but he had to catch himself, and he had a good laugh after it, because the gut reaction is it'll fail. But you're looking at a community that makes millionaires every day. If you look at the bodegas and the gas station and the Middle Eastern community that set up shop, that have come in when the Schnucks and the larger grocers moved out, there's money there. You know, so for me, it's like, how do we keep the money here?
And those are food deserts.
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
So being able to provide sustainable opportunity for people to buy fresh food and all of that is really cool.
Yeah, and it goes with an educational process, because you do have to educate the community as to why you need to eat healthier, why you need to, you know, switch your diet and get these companies to be interested in setting up shop so that it's profitable.
Well, it's interesting because when you talk about economic development, you've got to always get a mix of income levels in these areas. So how are you looking to attract, you know, folks who might have left those communities because of the situation and the downfall of a lot of those communities? How are you getting them back or interested?
By not making it personal. I understand any business operates off of a profit margin. So we're not saying come here because we are appealing to your benevolent side.
Right.
You know, we're saying here's a market. We'll do the feasibility study. We'll show you where the money will support the business. And this is why it makes sense. And there are businesses like, you know, we've reached out to Nike Town. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
oh my God! As many kids that run around with Nike shoes.
We shouldn't have to chase Nike to Chesterfield.
Exactly.
You know, the kids are right here.
Exactly.
You know, so it's having those conversations, and I've zipped all around the country. We go to an annual event called Recon in Las Vegas, which is the National Retail Convention, and everybody's there. You know, from Nike to Walmart to CVS, and you just have these conversations. You know, what are you looking for when you're choosing a community? So
what's been some of the feedback? Because a lot of institutions, like you talked about, left those communities, and a lot of it has to do with if you're in the community, you're having to deal with high theft, high this, you know, it's not feasible. But you guys are doing the feasibility, which I think is brilliant, because you are helping them to show there's opportunity here.
And you're de-risking it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a matter of also showing them that this community is involved with the redevelopment. It's not just some alien developer. You know what I mean? So the crime and everything, we are a part of also stabilizing. And here's the thing you have to keep in mind. Crime is maybe 1%. You know, it's loud. You know what I mean? It's frightening. But you also have little old ladies on this block, handicapped, elderly, you know. But this 1% holds this community hostage. So once you really say, hey, you know, we can deal with this 1% and remove it, and a part of that 1%, we can even get them to go back to taking pride in their community.
So are you working with, because I think that is really key, you know, saying that it's not just looking at bringing businesses here, but how do we work with all pieces of the community, which includes, you know, the police department, which might not have a great
relationship,
image,
history
in community. So how are you working? And I think now having a great police chief that we have, that you know, how does that?
Well,
how's
again,
it working for you?
The police department is made up of people, and you talk to the people. I rent office space to the Ethical Society of Police, which is the black police officers in the police department, and they care, you know. But when you're dealing with a community that's been neglected, abandoned, and forgotten, you just you have other priorities. You have your own family, you have your own kid that's dropping out of school and things that you're dealing with. But when you can get everyone and say, hey, here's something we can affect together, and here's the role that I play, here's what you can play, it really hasn't been hard. It was resistant. It was more resistance from the political structure than it was from the community.
I was going to say, that was my next question was, what I know you want me to go to break.
So one more question, then we're going to break.
We'll go to break now because I got so many different questions.
Yes.
Thanks.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know all about the great things they are up to. Square One offers 2 training options. Square One Ignite, a 4-week program created to help founders quick start their business model validation process. Or Square One Boot Camp, an in-depth 10-week, 50-hour program that combines formal instruction with hands-on learning, networking, and mentoring. To learn more about Square One Boot Camp or Square One Ignite, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continuing support, CET, we say thank you.
Hello, I'm James Buchanan, and thinking like an entrepreneur to me means that there is an innate understanding of what it takes to run a business, to support a business, and to be a part of a community that's sustainable.
So we're back, continuing our conversation. Cheryl has lots and lots of questions, but I'm going to get one in, right? So, James, Mr. Buchanan, you said earlier that you saw the potential in Kevin.
Yes.
And so can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because, he's got a business, he's busy, he's doing his thing. You're working with SLDC.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, before Kevin got involved with the Kingsway Business Association, you indicated it's a long-standing organization.
Sure.
And as a commercial district manager in that area, I've been working with them for at least 5 years. And I had an opportunity to see a number of various members come and go.
Sure.
And one of the things that, as a commercial manager, I had the fortune of being able to do was to be able to help control the money that goes in that organization. And from my experience, and probably not in a negative sense, but it was basically they were concerned about hookups. Who could help my business do this? And,
that kind of hookup.
Yeah, that kind of hookup. What can you get a trash can on Kings Highway?
Yeah.
And the vision of what the potential of the organization was never there. And Kevin came to a meeting and he saw what I saw, and he began to challenge the membership. And of course, they looked at Kevin like he had just landed from Mars. And I said, "That's the man." And we continued to lobby, and I continued to convince the membership that we needed new leadership, and they elected Kevin president, and the rest is history from there.
So, Kevin, were you one of the youngest business owners?
Yes,
I can imagine.
Yes, it was.
I can imagine, especially if people start looking at you like you got 2 heads.
Absolutely.
Because you're challenging the status quo, right?
Yeah, and the fact that we were successful meant I didn't have to rob the piggy bank. I could actually push for what the money was supposed to be spent for. I didn't need it to, hey, I'm really trying to get some new computers or anything like that. It wasn't necessary.
So one of the things we talk about a lot within our entrepreneurial circles is how to encourage entrepreneurship among African American communities, Black communities here in St. Louis.
Well, let me just say that Malcolm said history is best qualified to reward all research, and we have to kind of look at this from a historical standpoint of view. Prior to integration, there was a completely sustaining economic community in the Black community. And now let me just say that in a higher social and economic perspective, integration was good because it brought the country, or it was an attempt to bring the country into one unit. However, as a result of that, the African American community through integration lost a lot. I use the example of Branch Rickey bringing Jackie Robinson into the National Baseball League, but one African American destroyed the entire Negro Baseball League. They had stadiums, they were able to write checks for players, and so this happened on a larger scale. The responsible membership moved out, the businesses began to fail, and it left a drain on the African American community. So one of the things that we are talking about is revisiting sustainability. And this means that certainly we want companies to be able to be fair with us, fair employment, but at the same token, we have to be able to employ people within our own community as well.
Absolutely.
And sustain that economics. So, as Kevin mentioned, it's a difficult job because at the time you're making this transition, you're also dealing with education. You're dealing with sometimes a great political resistance to change. And so, but this is the exciting part of the challenge. And one of the things that we're doing, as well as the actual structural nuts and bolts of building this economic base, is educating the community in terms of what is necessary for this to be able to happen.
Well, that's really, and thank you for the historical context, because just as you mentioned your family's connection, Cheryl, to actually building some of the buildings in that neighborhood, we know that there were these thriving entrepreneurial ventures within the Black community that have gone away and have the potential to be rebuilt. And I just wanted to remind our listeners, who I know, like myself, like Cheryl, like others in the community, are trying to figure out, it's not that we need to explain why entrepreneurship is an opportunity, but to actually create the infrastructure in which that type of entrepreneurial spirit that already exists can thrive.
Absolutely.
Once again.
Right.
And so I really, really appreciate you saying that, because it's just
Cheryl.
so exciting to get that thought piece together.
My primary in another life was law enforcement, and Nesbitt Moore was a commissioner of police.
Commissioner.
And one of the things that he did was so innovative, was brought in the community policing.
That's right.
And that was such an innovative thing. And again,
you know who carried that forward? My husband, who was a lieutenant on the police force and was actually under Dan Isom, responsible for doing not just community policing, but strategically looking at how do you police. So it's all going in full circle. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. I'm just saying that's a very important, because our anti-crime program and getting the community to support the police effort is also very important as well.
Yeah, and I think what we tend to do, even when we think we're collaborating, is we still speak in silos. So if nothing comes out of this other than amazing things will come out of this conversation, but one of them, I hope, is even just getting some of those young entrepreneurs to have those conversations with you all about your personal experience, Kevin, as an entrepreneur, and the potential you see as a business owner there, but also, I've always pushed back when people are like, hey, we need to do Cortex on the north side. I'm like, we don't actually need to do Cortex on the north side. We need to invest in the north side. We need, but it's going to look different.
Here. Absolutely.
And it needs to look different because the needs are different.
There you go. And that's why we've invested in that building to turn it into a co-working space. We're talking about 30,000 square feet. We're even doing a commercial kitchen space in there.
Now you've just said the magic word. I've got so many entrepreneurs who need kitchen space.
Bring them to me. Because the thing about it is, young people really are entrepreneurial. They just don't understand that the world has changed.
Yes.
This isn't the agricultural age. This isn't the industrial age. It's the information age.
Right.
So what you're bringing to the marketplace to either meet a need or to improve has changed. A lot of the jobs and the opportunities are tech now, but young people have to see that in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit. Tell them you're good at rapping. They're up to 4 a.m. practicing rhymes and making beats. You're good at cutting hair. They're quick to go to barber school and become a barber. A lot of young people have gotten into culinary arts.
Yes.
But we as the elders have to say, here are the opportunities for the next 10 years.
Right.
Invest in this, and they will respond. That's been my experience.
So how are you, because you guys talked about community with the police, are you involved with education, with schools too? Because I think that's critical as well, and especially when you're talking about entrepreneurship.
Well, one of the things that I did when I retired from the police department was I spent 4 years as a volunteer teacher in the St. Louis public school system.
And volunteered?
I volunteered.
Wow.
Yeah. But let me tell you what we were trying to do. We were trying to bring a cultural experience that the children were not getting in the traditional education process. And once young people of any community understand their roots, the heritage, then they take pride, ownership of that community. And unfortunately, the Board of Education did not see the need to continue the program, but it ran for 3 years. And out of the 3 years, we had 130 students that went through our program. All of them graduated from high school. A third of them got into college. And the kind of transformation of attitude towards learning and just being a part of this experience was unbelievable. So we understand that a large challenge today is our public educational system. And this is something that people don't want to talk about, but we cannot talk about economic development unless we address this problem, because the young people of the 21st century have to be prepared to move into the economy that's moving forward today.
And I think what you're building over there, that's why the connection is so key.
Right.
Because there are, I met a gentleman at Normandy High School, a high school teacher, who is just rolled out a 4-year entrepreneurship curriculum.
Beautiful.
That I think that, connecting him with what you guys are doing is it's insane what can come out of that.
We're just building the foundation. We can't do everything,
right,
but we're gonna make sure the foundation is there. To me, the public school system is the final frontier. I have a whole lot of crazy ideas about classes for the school, but I can't be all over the place, right? But again, we have to teach values in the public school system now. They're not getting them at home. This is the age of the 40-year-old grandmama. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have to use the public school system where we have them to teach them conflict resolution, teach them morality, these things that they can carry on into their private lives. They'll do the rest.
How are you all getting, because you talked about businesses coming in, but it's more imperative, too, that people buy properties in those areas. How are you convincing people to say, I'm going to take a leap and decide to live in community, even though I don't have to?
It hasn't been hard. It's really been like, here is what's happening. As long as people can see that there's change coming, they're quick to, they're quick to try and see the opportunity. The challenge has been to keep people from land banking. Buying up derelict properties and then waiting on the money man to come and deliver all the goods. So my challenge has just been screening. Do you have the money to invest? Some of these houses, to bring back a 1,900 square foot house, you're talking about 6 figures.
Right. And the architecture is just gorgeous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the appraisal gap isn't there. So what we've been doing for the past year is just, again, meeting with banks and gathering the incentives. So we're working with WashU. They've agreed to cough up the same home buying incentive they're doing on the south side.
Wow.
There's $8,500 for every house purchased. We're working with banks to do a forgivable second mortgage to help cover the appraisal gap. We have to work with the redevelopers to say, hey, we know that you're going to have $40,000 that you're going to have to find. We can find you a bank to fund that loan.
Okay.
And their money's out there, but they have to see a cohesive development plan that's invested in by the political structure, not just some first-time developer out here with big dreams.
Right.
Is the city buying into what you're trying to do?
And then it's sustainable.
Yeah, because all of these banks are struggling with compliance issues. You're not lending in these areas. I mean, this redlining is real.
I was going to say, absolutely.
Very real.
Yeah.
Right. So our thing has been, well, let us create something that makes sense for you so that it's not such a high-risk area. There are really hard areas in St. Louis. We don't think Fountain Park is one of them. We think it's a great area to bounce back.
It's a lot of history there, too.
Absolutely, especially Lewis Place.
Yes. Oh, wow.
So, Mr. Buchanan, have you seen another diamond in the rough recently, another Kevin?
Well, I have. They're out there. As a matter of fact, we've seen several.
That's awesome.
Getting them involved, and Kevin's been very generous with training the younger groups coming underneath him. And I think we're going to be okay. I really do.
That's how this spreads.
That's encouraging.
We're trying to replace me because with every accomplishment, I have to focus on larger business, and someone has to come behind me.
Right.
We're very excited about Neil Richardson. It's a young man. He works at U.S. Bank in the New Market Tax Credit Office. Great potential. He's already bought a house in the area. He's well-spoken. He understands real estate. He'll be the new me quickly.
Are you still running your agency?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So when do you sleep?
I don't.
He said this morning, I asked him how he was. He said he was sleepy.
Well, you wouldn't be able to tell. That's for sure.
Well, I think another important piece, and hopefully we won't leave without talking a little bit about it, is that the things that we're doing in terms of educating our public, educating our community, is also we have to educate our political community as well.
Yes.
Because I think we have to have a shift of concepts in terms of how we make these transformations. And so that's not a negative thing. It just means that we have to have new paradigms, because obviously the things that we have been doing in the past have obviously not worked well for us. So I think we have a great opportunity to bring about a new concept of how we elevate our depressed communities and get people involved to do just what you say, move in. And we know that real estate is always valuable.
Right.
It's always, there's just so much land. And the artificial inflation or deflation are the improvements on the land. But make one thing for sure, that somebody is always looking at the land you occupy. So you either maintain it or you lose it. And so what we're saying to our community is we have to maintain it in order to keep it and sustain it.
That's great. Well, we always encourage our listeners to be entrepreneurial wherever they are, and it sounds like you need a lot of folks who can be visionary, think outside the box, take risks, learn how to de-risk opportunity to get other people on board. So it's really all those things we encourage people, those skill sets we really want our listeners to be thinking about, even if they're not a business owner per se, that this way of thinking and this way of looking at your world as a series of opportunities, problems to be solved, and hopefully ways to make money in the process. I hope we're helping to cultivate some of those thinkers for you.
No doubt.
And assuming that we are, what can we leave them with in terms of, if this inspires folks to take that entrepreneurial mindset and apply it to economic community redevelopment, what words of wisdom would you give them?
Well, I would say that there is a dichotomy in terms of the development initiative. All of us are in some way directly or indirectly business people. It's how we spend our money, where we invest our time. And I think the actual physical business people like Kevin understand that there is profit to be made, and that we understand when these people come in to take chances, that the community has to support it to make sure it's successful.
That's awesome. And Kevin, you
consider relocating north of Del Mar, on Del Mar. Visit Kingsway-development.net if you have any ideas. We don't expect to know everything. If it's something you think we can improve upon, let us know.
That's great. That's
thank you both for making time in what are no doubt very busy schedules to spend some time with us to be talking about what you're doing, which is truly inspiring. And I know personally I've got a to-do in terms of getting on their calendars to make sure that we connect some of the dots with other folks who I know are interested in activating these communities as well. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's Entrepreneurially Thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneurially-thinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.